I'm George Pearson, and these are just a few examples from some of the training videos I have here on YouTube. Now, when you're working with the training, following along the training, if you want to get the materials I used in the training, just go to the description down below and click on the link that's at the top of the description, and this will take you to a page where you can download the materials. Please subscribe, click the like button, and of course always share on Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. I really appreciate that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the video. In this Photoshop Elements video, we're going to create this Valentine's Day card. Now this is done completely with graphics that are inside or included with Photoshop Elements. So you don't need to do anything else outside of Elements for this particular video. Okay, let's just bring the size down a little bit here. And I'm going to just dock this window. There we go. And we'll start off with Scratch. We'll be doing the background first. I'll make a new file. New blank file. Here we go. I'm using the default Photoshop size, which is 6x4. If you want to do this to match a particular card size, just put your card size in right here. Follow the basic directions and it will fit whatever card size you're using. So let's choose OK, and I'll dock this one as well. There we go. Okay, the first thing we want to have in here, just back up again just a touch, is a gradient in the background. Now I'll put that on a new layer right there. And for the gradient, I want to go from white in the middle out to a pink at the outer edge. We'll do a radial gradient. Let's go over here to our gradient tool. So there's the radial gradient. That's one you want to be using. We want to set our colors. Now by default, it's going to be using the foreground and background colors you can see here. My foreground right now is white. I'm just going to reverse those. Click on that little double arrow. That reverses those. So background's white. Click on this for the foreground. Now on this one, just pull your control here all the way down to the bottom. Puts it at the full red. And then simply it's right about in the middle at the top. Right about there's what you want. So it's full red and then right in the middle. Anything around there, kind of a mid-tone red in here, kind of this kind of mid-tone pink color. I'm not going full saturation red. I want to keep it kind of in the pinks. As you can see here, there's our new gradient. It's going from left to right. If I click on reverse, it reverses it, so you can reverse your gradient in here. I'll set it up so that it's white on the left and red on the right side here. When you pull the gradient, it's going to be pulling from the left side to the right side on your color. So we're using a radial. I'll click right about in the middle and I'll pull to an outside corner. And that gives me that nice little basic gradient. Okay, that's our step one. That's pretty easy, as you can see. We'll leave all those colors as is. We'll come back to that in just a little bit. Next thing I want to do is to put in just some random hearts in here to kind of fill the background in with some content. And for that, we'll be using a graphic over here. Now, it's about, as you can see right here, we're in the graphics and shapes. Right there's the black and white shapes. And it's a little more than halfway down the list. And it's this heart right here which says heart card. Double click on that and that pulls that in. And as you can see, it brings that in with the default foreground color, which is that same pink. It should match that pink in the corner there. As you can see right there, it kind of blends in once it gets to the edge. Okay, so there's our basic heart. Now I want to make some copies of this. Let's just go back to our layers. And I'm going to copy this layer, just drag it up to the new layer button, make a copy of that, and then I'll just pull that down a little bit, make it a little bit smaller, stick it right there. Let's copy that one, and I'll pull it over here, make this one a little bit smaller. There we go, let's copy that, and drag it up to the, oh, there we go, drag it up to the new layer button again. I'll leave it at this size. We'll put it right over here somewhere and stick our mid-sized one, copy that, and I'll stick it right there. Now to save some time, let's just combine all these together. Click on the top layer, come down to the bottom, hold the shift key, click on the bottom layer. That selects all of those layers, right click, and then we're going to merge shapes right there, merge shapes. Okay, let's make a copy of this. There we go. And I'll stick that one up here someplace. Let's make another copy of this. Move that right over here, overlapping the hearts a little bit. I'll make one more copy of that one. And this one I'm going to reverse. I'm just going to pull it like this and just kind of reverse the direction. I'll stick that one right up there. And I think that's pretty good. You can move them around a little bit if you want to get kind of a nice, just scattered feel. Then make it a little bit more interesting. Let's just set the opacity level on all of these to 50%. So I'll just type in 50 on each one of these. Just going up here one at a time. And there we go. So that gives it kind of a nice soft background. If it's a bit too bright for you, you can always bring these down even further. Maybe I'll bring this one down to 25% to soften that one up right there because we're having some other things happening in there. So that gives you your hearts in the background. Again, you can play around with those as you want to. Once you get the rest of the card finished, you may want to move these around a bit, adjust their settings. I'm going to make a little bit more of an overlap on that one just because it looks nice. A little more overlap in there, right there. Overlaps look real nice on this when you're using these transparencies. Okay, that's step 2. So we now have our basic background set. Now, since we already have our heart, we're going to use that same heart shape as our basic heart shape. We'll get to that in just a minute. First, though, I want to bring in the ribbon effect in here. And we'll do that with a couple of steps. It's kind of a fun thing. I'm going to bring in the basic ribbons first. Now the ribbon is also a graphic. So let's go over here to our graphics and go over here to backgrounds. And it's a background. And here we go. And I'll scroll down from here. And you can see right now I'm about 2/3 of the way down on my list on the backgrounds. And there we go. So it's kind of a nice background. It's called Red Silk. Double click on that, and what that does is that changes the background to this red silk. Let's go back here to our layers. There we go. Now let's say you wanted to make this its own layer. This is easy to do. Just take this background, drag it up onto the new layer button. It's now a copy. I'm just going to rename this ribbon like that, and I can now take this and drag this to the top. So there's our red silk look. If you want to change or refill your background with white, it's up to you. We're just kind of using that just as a temporary holding place to get that background graphic out of the background set and copy it to give us a new ribbon here. Now for this effect, I want to use a layer mask in here, and we're going to be copying kind of the middle section. So I'm going to go here to the top ruler, and I'll drag a ruler in here. I'll drag another ruler down to about there. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I don't want to have it, too specific in here. I'll grab the wrong thing there. But about like that. So this is a little higher up in the middle, and this is down, about 1/3 or 1/2 down from the center point. Just kind of like that. This should be a little wider than your bottom section, but it's not really critical. You can always adjust the size later. Now, what I want to do here again is to come in and make a layer mask like that. So click on your layer mask button, makes a layer mask. By default, the layer mask is filled with white, which is show, so it's showing everything. Let's now grab the rectangular marquee tool, and I'll do a marquee at the top, right down on my line. And our foreground color is black again because the masks only work with black or white or gray tones. Let's grab our paint bucket and just fill that with black. So that just hides that top part. Do the exact same thing on the bottom. Just drag a selection like that, so it's selecting the bottom part. Back to the paint bucket and fill the bottom part. So there we go. We've now filled though, so I'll just deselect that. So we've set up a layer mask, and that gives us that basic band across the side here. Now, I had this band kind of wavy in my effect, and I'll show you how that's done. Let's just get these guidelines out of the way. Those are no longer needed. Now, one of the reasons why I did this as a layer mask instead of just cutting it out is I can then go back and change the size if I want to in the future. That's why I did it with layer mask. I can always change my size easily. Now, a fun thing about layer masks is that you can do filters on layer masks. And we're going to be putting a bend in this by using the Liquify filter. We'll go up here to the filter menu, come down to Distort, and Liquify right there. This brings up the Liquify filter. Notice that we're on the mask right now. So there's the layer mask. And notice how there's a brush, and I have it set so that it's about the size of the mask. See right there, about the size of the mask. Notice over here the brush size, one I have set it is at 1194, almost 12. Brush pressure of 50. But anything in there, real good large size brush. Now if you click in here and hold for a minute, you can see what happens. It actually warps the layer mask. I'll do a little bit over here, a little bit of a curve there. So little warp on the layer mask just by using this Liquify filter. That's all I have to do. I'm up here on the twirl clockwise tool, which is kind of the top of the tools. Choose OK. Let it figure that out. And it warps the layer mask, and the layer mask warps the image for us. There's a little bit of a mess right down here. Let's just fix that, and a little bit right down there. So you need to paint black back into those two. That's easy enough to do. Just grab the paintbrush, and let's set a brush size. In this case, about here someplace we find. I'm just going to paint in there, and just painting up there real carefully. Let's now finish this ribbon off by putting a drop shadow on this. Go up here to Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings, and Drop Shadow. Bring our size up a little bit. Distance out, you can kind of see it down there. There it is. So just a little bit. If I pull it down here to see what's happening. The size softens it up, and the distance pulls it out. So just a little bit out and up a little bit on the size. Something kind of like that. That's a 21 and a 14, 21 size, distance 14 if you want to match that exactly. But just a little bit of a soft edge drop shadow and choose OK. Alright, the ribbon is now taken care of. We'll put the text in last. Let's now work on our big graphic hearts in here. Be a new layer, but this will automatically give us a new layer. I'm first going to change my foreground color here. Just put all the way upper right hand corner, pure red, choose OK. Let's go back to our graphics, and let's go back to the shapes, and that should still be pretty close to where the heart is, so you can find that. There it is. Again, the heart card, double click, and that gives us that heart right there. Now I want to make this size pretty good. It has to be, as you can see here, you want the bottom tip coming off the bottom of the ribbon, and the top's quite a bit up there. If I measure it, it's about 50% of the height of the window. Is about right visually. And it'll be about over here someplace when we finish. Kind of in the center on the right third. If I divided this up into thirds, this would be about center on about the right third. It's kind of a visual thing. So there we go. There's the basic heart shape. Everything is now built from this basic shape. Let's go back to our layers so we can see this. It's going to be done in several steps. The first step is to come in here and create some layer styles on this. Let's go up here to Layer and Layer Style, Style Settings. There we go. For this we need to have a few. We're going to be doing an inner glow. There we go, a little inner glow on this one. And I want this to be a pink color. So click on this and let's go back to our reds. And we're going to be going into the pink about If here's halfway, that's about a quarter. It's about a quarter of the way in. Just kind of a light pink. And let's bring the size up on this. And bring it up, about mid 20s, just a little bit of a glow happening in there. You can kind of see it if I pull it up. See, there's that glow happening right there. But in the mid 20s, someplace 24, 25, in there's probably pretty good. So that's a glow. Now I want to do a bevel as well. Let's just collapse the glow. Let's open the bevel up and do a bevel. And you want the bevel to be down, not up, so a down bevel. And let's set this at about 9 pixels. So we're getting a little bit of an edge. See, it's dark at the top and light at the bottom. That's what I'm looking for, dark top, light bottom. So it's 9 pixels down on the bevel. And then we'll finish this off with a stroke. And let's set the stroke at about 4 right there. Have it outside. And I want red again over here. So click on that. Just choose the upper right hand corner for red. And choose OK. So there we go. There is our first heart. Now let's make a copy of this. This is just kind of the outer edge of the heart. We're going to copy this shape like that. Now I have 2 copies. Now I want to make this one just a little bit smaller than the previous one. So if you hold the Alt key down and drag from a corner, it's going to pull it in from the outside. As you can see there, it kind of pulls in from the outside. That will let me fit it in so it's just inside, just a little bit smaller. I may want to resize that a touch. We're not going to change the style settings. Let's just bring this style back up again. We're going to change the style settings. I'm going to leave the inner glow at 24. Leave that exactly the same. Let's change the bevel to up instead of down. And I'm going to be going for a real large bevel. Notice as I pull this up, you get a real large bevel effect. There's all the way. I pull it back just a bit. You know, the mid 180s somewhere, so I have just some interesting kind of a shape happening in there on that. So there's the bevel, and we no longer need that stroke, so the stroke goes away. That's getting pretty good. Let's choose OK, and I'll click on the other layers. I can really see how that's looking. That's looking pretty good. Maybe I'll pull the edges up just a little bit. So let's just resize that just a little bit. Again, hold the Alt key down so that it resizes from the center. And I'll put it up just a little bit and put in just a little bit. Not too much. There we go. I just wanted to get a little more of that other outer edge showing. I'm going to move it up just a tap with my arrow keys, cursor keys. So there we go. There's that basic heart shape. Now we want to put in our reflections in here. I'll do those on a new layer. So I'll make a new layer up here. And on this one, we're going to set our foreground background colors back to the default and then reverse those. We have our white in front. And change the selection tool over here to the elliptical marquee. I'm just going to draw a circle, about that big, and kind of put it right up there, upper right hand corner. About like that. See, it's kind of filling in that area, not exactly, but just kind of filling in that area. Okay, let's go over to the paintbrush. Now I want to have a hard edge brush, and I'll bring the size up quite a bit. And that's a bit too much. That's too small. Looks like somewhere around 300. About like that. About I'm going to say 300 exactly. Should be pretty close. And on the, let me show you right here. At that point, I want to put the circle of my brush right about upper left-hand corner of this circle. Now I want to have a soft brush on this. Let's Go here, just choose one of our soft brushes like that. And let's bring the size up. And you know, the high 200s, low 300s in there someplace. I'm going to go, I think, to 300. Let's just double click and type in 300 soft brush. And just kind of tap in there. Yeah, a couple of taps just like that. Okay, now go back to the elliptical marquee tool. And I can now move that marquee just like that. So I'm going to pull it out a little bit. There we go. And I'll hit the delete key, and that cuts out that section. Let's now deselect that. So there's that top highlight. Now if it's too bright, you can tone that down a little bit by changing your opacity or leave it as is. Now since it's also on its own layer, we can move that around to get it exactly where you want. So you have some flexibility. You can also resize by using your control handles. Okay, there's our first little bit. Let's now do one over here. This is going to be a darker one. So let's grab our elliptical marquee tool again and do kind of an ellipse. Oh, about the same size, so it's a, you know, kind of fits in there. But I want to have this tall. So let's go up to the select, and let's come down to transform selection. It gives me control handles. I'll grab the bottom one. I'm just going to pull it down like that, so it's about the height of the heart in here. And that looks good. And I'll pull it over just a bit over here, so it's kind of curving in right along that edge. So you can still see a little bit of the top edge of the heart up there, little kind of thin outline, and it just curves down towards the middle. All right, I want to put a dark shape in here. Let's go to our eyedropper tool. I'm going to grab something, kind of in the mid-tones over here from the ribbon. Something in there, just kind of a mid-tone ribbon color. Back to our paintbrush. Now I need a new layer to put this on, so let's come up here to the new layer button. There we go. This one was the white highlight. And this is going to be it's kind of a highlight position. I'm going to call it a highlight, but it's the dark thing on this side. So there we go. Now I want my brush a lot larger than that, so let's bring the brush size up a bit. Maybe about the mid 600s. I'm just going to click in there like that, just a real fast click. And then again, go back to your elliptical marquee tool. Let's take this ellipse and let's drag it over a bit. Kind of like that. And then hit the delete key. And that erases that part of it. Okay, we can now deselect that. We're getting there. We're getting to build this whole thing together. Now again, because we have put this on its own layer, I can move this thing around or adjust the size until it's exactly the way I want it. Kind of like that, just kind of a swoopy shape in there. Now I want to bring these all together a bit in the center, so I want to have another shape in here. And this is just kind of to blend in this middle a little bit. Now back up here again, and we'll be putting this on another new layer. This is kind of the center, so I'm going to call it heart center. Now for this, I want to come down to my shape down here, hold the control key down and click on the icon. That selects just the heart shape right there. Let's go back up to our heart center layer, and let's reset our color here to let's go over here to our red right there. Choose OK. That's the same color as the center of the heart. Go back to our paintbrushes, and this time I want a hard edge brush. So let's choose one of your hard edge brushes. Bring the size up quite a ways. And I want something that's a little bit larger, but not too much larger. That's a bit too big still. A little too small, so maybe about 500. Looks like I think it's about 500. Should be about right. Okay, so I wanted to touch the tip at the bottom and be up a little bit at the top. So 500 is not quite big enough. Let's set this at 525. There we go. That does it. And I'm just going to click like that, just right in the middle. And we can then deselect. Now obviously this is too much, so let's bring our opacity down. And this just gives me a little more of an interesting shape happening in here. And on that edge, just a few more little shapes happening. Just makes the overall heart look a little more interesting on that shape. But that's the basic look then of our graphic heart. You can, of course, tweak this if you want to, but that's the basic heart is set up. Maybe a little bit lighter, maybe down to 25%. That's pretty good. All right, now that we have this, let me show you a real cool trick. I'll be using this as my clip art for the rest of the hearts on the page. Now my cool trick is I want to hide everything else on this except for just the heart and those heart graphics. So everything else is hidden. Click on the top layer, and then I have this keyboard shortcut written out up here. I'm just my recent files. There we go. So it's the Control key or Command key on a Mac, Shift, Alt, and E. So Control, Shift, Alt, E. That's the Windows setup. And it's a really, really cool little shortcut. Click on your top layer, and then I'll do Control, Shift, Alt, hit the E key. And you can see what it did was it took all of these layers, the ones that were visible, and combined those into a new layer right there. Okay, so let's bring our other layers back again. Now it's all nicely done. There we go. There's our new layer. See right here, it's everything combined onto one layer. I now can resize this one, hold the Alt key down to do that from the center. I'll put it about like this and a little twist on that. There we go. Okay, now I want to have some more of these things just kind of around and about. So I'm going to grab that layer and duplicate it. Let's pull one over here. I'll make this one a lot smaller. You know, hold the Alt key so it does it from the center. Put it about like this, and I'll make that about vertical and about that size right there. Let's copy that one, and I'll pull that over here. Just give this a little bit of a spin, make it a little bit smaller, and just kind of overlap them a little bit. There we go, that looks pretty good. Let's copy that larger one again, and I'll make a copy of that. I'll pull that one up here, give it a little spin. Oh, didn't want to do that. Grab the wrong bit there. There we go. A little spin this way. Let's copy that up here. Let me check the green checkbox first. There we go. Copy that up here, new layer. Let's pull this up here a bit. Give it a little bit of a spin again. Shrink it down just a bit so it's different size. Just kind of varying the sizes here a little bit. Just do a couple more of these. Come back down to this one. I'll copy this layer. Drag that one over here. Make it a little larger this time. Not too much. I want to keep these all, a lot smaller than our main ones. There we go. Let's just do one more of these little heart things. And back up here. Let's see. That's that one right there. Copy that. Pull that down. Spin it other direction. And bring the size down a little bit. There we go. And just kind of stick that right in there somewhere. Okay, so there's all of those hearts on the page. Looks real nice. Let's now just put in some text and we're all done. So back up to the top layer. There we go. It's the very top layer. Let's go to our type tool. Set the type tool for white. There we are. The typeface that I'm using is one called Vivaldi. I can find it in here someplace. There we go, Vivaldi Italic. Just a real kind of fancy scripting. Any real scripty kind of typeface will work out fine. A good website to get free fonts is a site called Dafont, DAFONT.com. Lots of great stuff. There's just something with a lot of script to it. I'm just going to click in there. Right now it's set at 30 points. Let's see how that does. To be my Valentine, choose OK. It's a little bit on the small side. So I'll grab the corner and let's just make that a bit larger. Stretch it a little bit. OK. And I'm going to pull it, kind of squeeze it up just a little bit. So it kind of fits into that area. Now I want to have a bit of a curve, so it kind of matches the curve of the ribbon. I don't care if it matches the curve exactly. I just want to have it kind of like that. So I'll click into my type. Come down here on the type tool. Create warp type right there. And the one you want is the arch. There it is. That's the arch. And then control the amount of bend with this control. You don't want to have too much bend on this or it'll be hard to read. So just a little bit of a bend. Choose OK. And we can then spin it a little bit so it fits in the area nicely. Now it's not quite heavy enough, so I want to make it a little bit thicker. Now if you're doing this kind of a warp on it, you can't use the fake bold, which is this thing right there. So you can't do a fake bold with the warp and make it work properly. So what I'm going to be doing instead is to use a layer style. So style, layer style, style settings. Come down here to stroke. Set the stroke to white. There we go. You can see what I've done. I've just put that stroke around the outside of the letter, and that thickens the letter up. And I make the same color as the letter. And finally, we can give it a little drop shadow as well in here. Let's adjust the distance out just a bit. A little hard to see that, but it's in there. And that just helps to separate that from the background. Okay, now it's just a matter of just a little bit of tweaking until you get exactly the look that you want and get it to fit in the space nicely. I'm going to make it kind of as large as I can in here without getting too ridiculous. Choose OK. And there we go. There is our Valentine's Day card. Let me just zoom in on that. Let's undock that window and get rid of that one. Pull that down a little bit. Zoom in so you can see this in perfect setting. There we are. So there we go. A few fancy little tricks and techniques on this one, as you can see, but it works out real nice. And the whole thing, again, was created completely inside of Photoshop Elements, so it's easy to reproduce. No clip art or anything needed. So there you go. That is creating a Valentine's Day card here inside of Photoshop Elements. Thank you for watching this special Photoshop photography project video. Don't forget to subscribe so that you will get first notice of new project videos in the future. Just click on this link right here where it says subscribe here. You can get all 12 project videos in this series along with 26 special videos demonstrating the tools and techniques that I used in these projects by clicking on this link right down here. And then thank you again for watching this training video.